Listen closely, my friends. There is a kind of silence that history almost erased. Not because it was weak, but because it was too powerful for ordinary people, music, to understand. Long before kingdoms collapsed and empires disappeared into dust, a handful of men discovered that music, the greatest victories, were never won on battlefields. They were won in the invisible war between emotion and discipline, where a single unnecessary sentence could destroy what years of wisdom had built. Music. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth. Yet the enemy he feared most never carried a sword. It spoke through anger, pride, impatience, music, and the irresistible urge to react. He knew that the moment another person could dictate your emotions, they no longer needed chains to, music, make you a prisoner, they only needed your attention and your next careless word. Now think about your own life for a moment. How many, music, nights have you replayed a conversation wishing you had stayed silent instead of proving a point? How many relationships were damaged? How many opportunities disappeared simply because you believed every, music, situation demanded an immediate response? Most people spend years trying to control the world around them while never learning to control the voice inside themselves. Modern, music, life rewards speed. Speak first. Defend yourself. Explain your choices. Win every argument. But the Stoics understood something, music, that our generation has almost forgotten. Every unnecessary reaction gives away, music, a piece of your power. And every attempt to force people to understand you quietly places your peace in their hands. Music. Today you are about to walk through 10 moments that separate ordinary minds from unshakable ones. These are not communication tricks and they are not motivational slogans. They are timeless, music, principles forged through suffering, tested by philosophers, emperors, music, warriors, and men who refused to let the world decide who they would become. Music. By the end of this journey, you will begin to notice something strange. The situations that once stole your peace will lose their grip. The people who once controlled your emotions will seem powerless. And the silence you once feared will become the, music, greatest source of strength you have ever possessed. But before any of that can happen, you must first, music, face the lesson that almost everyone fails. The moment when staying silent, music, feels impossible yet becomes the beginning of real power. Situation 1, music, stay silent. When you are being tested, not attacked. The first lesson is the one that breaks, music, almost everyone, because most people cannot tell the difference between an attack and a test. The moment someone challenges, music, your pride, questions your intelligence, or throws a careless remark into the room, your instincts immediately prepare, music, for battle. But what feels like an attack is often nothing more than life asking a single question. Can this person, music, be controlled? Epictetus understood this better than most men ever, music, will. Born into slavery, he learned that true freedom had nothing to do with locked doors or broken chains. A man, music, became a prisoner the moment another person's words could dictate his emotions. That is why, music, the Stoics believed your first reaction is never your greatest strength. It is your greatest vulnerability, waiting for someone else to exploit. Picture a mountain standing against a violent storm. The wind screams, the rain crashes, the thunder demands a response. Yet the mountain never argues with the, music, sky. It remains exactly where it belongs. Because real strength, music, does not prove itself by making the loudest sound. It proves, music, itself by remaining unshaken when everything around it is trying to pull it apart. The next time someone tries to provoke you, don't rush to defend yourself. Watch instead. Music, notice who enjoys the conflict, who waits for your reaction, and who quietly loses respect for the person creating the chaos. While everyone else is speaking, you are collecting something far more valuable than the last word. You are collecting truth, and truth always reveals itself to the person who can remain, music, silent long enough to see it. Most people believe silence means they have lost the moment. The Stoics saw the opposite. They knew that every second you refuse to react, music, you force the other person to carry the full weight of their own behavior. In music, that uncomfortable silence, masks begin to fall. Intentions, music, become visible and people reveal a version of themselves they never intended you to see. Remember this because it may, music, change the way you walk into every difficult conversation for the rest of your life. The person who controls your emotions, music, controls your decisions. And the person who controls your decisions quietly, music, controls your future. That is why the greatest victory is not winning the argument. It is walking away, music, with your peace still completely untouched. Situation 2. Stay silent when you feel the need to explain yourself. There is a quiet trap that, music, catches even the strongest minds, and it rarely begins with fear. It begins with the desperate, music, need to be understood. Someone questions your decision, doubts your path, or asks why you chose a life they would never have the courage, music, to live. Without realizing it, you begin building a defense for a choice that was never on trial in the first place. Diogenes never wasted his life explaining himself to people, music, who had already decided not to understand him. While others chased, music, approval, he protected something far more valuable, his freedom. The Stoics believed that the moment your peace, music, depends on another person's agreement, you have quietly handed them authority over a life that, music, was never theirs to govern. Imagine an eagle soaring above a valley while voices, music, rise from the ground below. The people argue about how high it should fly, music, or it should land, and whether its direction is right. Yet, the music eagle never circles back to defend its flight. It simply keeps, music, climbing because the sky has never asked permission from the earth, music, before opening itself to those willing to rise. Every explanation invites another question. Every justification creates another opportunity for doubt. Before long, you are no longer protecting your decision. Music, you are negotiating it. The people who were never going to walk your path suddenly begin shaping it with opinions born from fears they never overcame. Music, that is how clarity slowly disappears beneath the weight of borrowed, music, voices. The strongest people you will ever meet are rarely the ones who speak with, music, the greatest confidence. They are the ones who no longer feel the need to convince anyone. Music, their certainty does not come from applause or approval. It comes from the quiet knowledge that some decisions are meant to be lived, music, not defended, and that results will always speak more convincingly than, music, explanations ever can. So the next time someone demands an explanation, you do not resist, music, the urge to fill the silence. Let your actions answer what your words never could. Because the moment you stop asking the world to validate your choices, you begin walking with a kind of, music, confidence that no criticism can ever take away. Situation 3. Stay silent. Music, when grief has taken the words from your hands, there are wounds that language, music, was never created to carry. One day, life will take something from you that no amount of logic can replace. A person you loved, a dream you built for years, music, or a version of yourself that quietly disappeared without saying goodbye. In those moments, the world will expect an, music, explanation. It will ask if you're okay, what happened, how you're feeling. But some pain, music, becomes smaller the moment you stop forcing it into words. Seneca once wrote that the deepest, music, sorrows should be allowed to breathe in silence before they are exposed to the noise of the world. He understood that grief, music, is not something to perform. It is something to survive. The strongest people are not, music, the ones who speak bravely through heartbreak. They are the ones who sit alone with it, allowing, music, the pain to shape them instead of rushing to escape it. Some transformations are so sacred, music, that they can only happen where no one is watching. Picture an ancient forest after a, music, wildfire. From the outside, everything appears lifeless. The trees are blackened. The ground is covered in ash and silence hangs over the land like the end of a story. Yet beneath that silence, unseen roots are, music, already beginning their work. Long before the first green leaf appears, life has already, music, chosen to return. Healing has always been invisible before it becomes visible. Most people, music, fear silence because it forces them to meet themselves without distraction. They fill every empty space with conversations, music, endless scrolling, or the opinions of strangers, hoping the noise will drown out what still hurts inside. But pain, music, that is constantly interrupted never truly leaves. It simply waits. The Stoics, music, believed that every avoided emotion returns stronger until you finally, music, become brave enough to sit with it instead of running from it. Viktor Frankl, music, walked through unimaginable darkness and discovered a truth that still, music, echoes today. Everything can be taken from a person except the freedom to choose who they become, music, in response to suffering. That choice is never made in the middle of applause. It is made in music, the quiet hours when no one sees your tears, your doubts, or the battle-taking, music, place inside your own mind. Character is not built in public. It is forged in silence. So if life has broken something inside you, resist the urge to explain your pain to music, people who could never carry its weight. Let silence become your shelter, music, instead of your prison. Because one day the world will look at your strength, music, and wonder how you recovered, never realizing that your greatest healing began in the moments when you stopped, music, speaking and finally listened to the part of yourself that suffering had been trying to awaken all along. Situation 4: Stay silent around people who cannot understand you. There comes a point in every meaningful life when you realize that not every room deserves your voice. You walk in carrying years of discipline, sacrifice, music, and hard-earned wisdom, only to find yourself surrounded, music, by people who measure depth with the same eyes they use to judge appearances. Your first instinct is to explain yourself, to make them understand who you really are. But the moment you begin shrinking your mind to fit someone else's limits, music, you stop expressing yourself. And you start erasing yourself. Diogenes knew this, music, loneliness better than almost anyone in history. He carried a lantern through the streets of Athens, music, in broad daylight, claiming he was searching for an honest man. Most people laughed. Some mocked him. Almost none, music, understood what he was trying to reveal. Yet he never chased the crowd for acceptance because he understood a timeless truth. Wisdom, music, loses its power the moment it begins begging for permission to exist. Music, imagine a lighthouse standing alone on a violent coastline while waves crash against the rocks below. It never sails into the ocean, pleading for every passing ship to notice its light. It simply, music, stands unwavering through every storm, knowing that the ships searching for direction will always find it. The ones drifting blindly into darkness were never looking toward the light, music, in the first place. One of the most exhausting battles you will ever fight is trying, music, to convince people to see a version of you they have already decided does not exist. No explanation will change a mind committed to misunderstanding, music, you. In fact, the more desperately you explain yourself, the more invisible your truth becomes. Some people do not, music, misunderstand you because you failed to communicate. They misunderstand you, music, because accepting your growth would force them to question the comfort of their own limitations. Marcus Aurelius never believed that every mind could be reached by reason. Music, he knew that some people are so committed to their own story that they will twist every word you speak, music, until it fits the version of you they have already created. That is why the Stoics protected their energy, music, with silence. Not because they had nothing to say, but because they, music, refused to waste truth on ears that had already chosen illusion. Remember this, music, for the rest of your life. You were never born to be understood by everyone. Diamonds, music, are not judged by those who cannot recognize their value. And mountains, music, never lower themselves to convince the valley of their height. The day you stop chasing understanding, music, from the wrong people is the day your silence begins carrying more weight than your words ever could. That is the music moment you stop seeking an audience and start becoming unforgettable. Situation 5: Stay silent. When revenge is sitting right in front of you, there is a dangerous moment that arrives after you've, music, been betrayed, humiliated, or deeply wounded. Suddenly, music, the opportunity you've been waiting for appears. You finally have the words, the evidence, the power to, music, make them feel exactly what they made you feel. Your heart tells you this is, music, justice. Your ego calls it closure. But the Stoics saw something almost no one else could. The greatest danger was never the person who hurt you. It was the person you were about to become in response. Cato the Younger understood, music, this with frightening clarity. His enemies lied about him, conspired against him and tried, music, to destroy everything he stood for. Yet he refused to fight dishonesty, music, with dishonesty because he believed the moment you borrow the character of your enemy, you have already surrendered the battle. Victory achieved by becoming the very thing you despise, music, is not victory. It is defeat wearing the mask of success. Music, imagine holding a burning piece of coal, waiting for the perfect moment to throw it at someone who wronged you. The longer you hold it, the hotter it becomes. Long before it ever reaches the other person, it has already burned the hand, refusing to let go. Revenge works the same way. It promises relief tomorrow, while quietly destroying your peace today. Every second you, carry it, it owns a little more of your future. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best revenge, is not to become like the one who caused your suffering. Those words are deeper than they first appear. The person who betrayed you can only, steal your peace once. But resentment steals it every morning you wake up remembering them. Every quiet night you, replay the past, and every dream you postpone because your energy remains chained to someone who has already moved, on. One day life will give you the chance to answer cruelty with cruelty. In that, moment, almost everyone will expect you to strike back. But the strongest people, rarely announce their revenge because they no longer need it. They become so disciplined, so peaceful, and so impossible to break that their entire existence becomes proof that the wound never destroyed them. Nothing unsettles, your enemies more than discovering they no longer occupy a single room inside your mind. So when revenge finally, stands within reach, close enough to taste, choose something far more terrifying than retaliation. Choose indifference. Choose growth. Choose a future so meaningful that the people who once tried to break you slowly disappear into a chapter you no longer feel the need to, reopen. Because the highest form of victory has never been making someone else suffer. It has always been becoming, someone that suffering could never conquer. Situation 6. Stay silent about your, plans until they have become reality. There is a quiet mistake that has buried more dreams than, failure ever could. It happens the moment you announce a vision before it has grown strong enough to survive the world. You tell people about the, business you are building, the body you are creating, the life you are determined to live. Believing their excitement will fuel your journey. But what feels like encouragement often becomes, the first crack in your discipline because the applause arrives long before the achievement ever does. The Stoics understood a truth that modern psychology would only confirm centuries later. The human, mind cannot always distinguish between being praised for a goal and actually accomplishing it. The moment, others admire your ambition, your brain rewards you as if part of the work has already been finished. Hunger begins, to fade. Urgency slowly disappears. Before long, the dream that once kept you awake at night is, quietly replaced by the comfort of talking about it instead of building it. Picture a seed buried, beneath the earth. It does not fight its way toward the surface on the first morning. It remains hidden in complete, darkness, growing roots no one can see. The world above mistakes that silence for emptiness, never realizing that the most important part of its growth, is happening where no applause can reach it. If the seed forced itself into the sunlight before its roots were ready, the first strong wind would tear it from the ground without, mercy. Most people are not trying to destroy your dream. They destroy it, without even knowing they are doing it. Some will project their fears onto your future because they never, escaped their own. Others will laugh because your courage reminds them of the risks they, were too afraid to take. Even those who genuinely love you may ask you to stay safe, not realizing that safety, has buried more extraordinary lives than failure ever has. The moment you expose, an unfinished vision, you invite unfinished minds to shape it with their limitations. Epictetus once reminded his students that sheep do not announce how much grass they have eaten. They remain, quiet, and in time they produce wool. That is how real transformation works. It does not introduce itself with, promises. It arrives unexpectedly, leaving people wondering where your strength came from while never seeing the years of invisible, discipline that created it. Results have a language that words will never be able to imitate. So protect your ambitions like a flame in the middle of a storm. Let your discipline, grow in silence while the world assumes nothing is happening. Then one day when your work can no longer be ignored, you won't need to explain, what you were building. Your life will speak with a certainty so undeniable that every doubt, music, every opinion, and every prediction made against you will disappear beneath the music weight of what you quietly became. Situation 7. Stay silent. When success begins to change you, the seventh lesson is music, the most dangerous of them all because it never announces itself as a danger. It arrives disguised, music, as success. It whispers to you after every achievement, urging you to tell the story, post the victory, seek the music, applause, and collect the admiration. At first it feels harmless, but slowly without realizing it, your life stops, music, being something you live and becomes something you perform.